የሰው ልጅ ክቡር ሰው መሆን ክቡር
Today's conversation is one I've been genuinely looking forward to. My guest is Elias Tekletsadik, a human rights activist, a political analyst, and engineer deeply engaged in Ethiopian affairs. Elias is someone who cares not only about Ethiopia, but about African affairs as a whole, its future, its dignity, its prosperity. What stood out to me immediately is that we share a vision. We both want to see Africa prosper on its own terms. The shared belief shapes how we think about history, power, responsibility, and what comes next. Elias has strong opinions. He has a big following and has become one of the key voices in shaping conversations in the current Ethiopian political climate. This conversation is an opportunity for me to listen, to understand the region from a perspective both familiar and new, and to explore how the past continues to shape the present. Elias, thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Now, I want to establish where we're going to start because the conversation of Africa is obviously a vast one. It's a big topic. So we're gonna hone in on East Africa as a region, touching on all parts of Africa, of course. But to set a timeline, I think I want to start by post-colonialism because I think before that, and tell me if you agree or not, before that it's quite hard to, establish what Africa really was. And I know many people might disagree, and that's why I don't want to get into it, what Africa once was before colonialism. So if we start at colonialism, would you say that's a good place to start?
Yeah, it would be a good place to start because, we will have some kind of framework, so that it will be very easy for us to indulge in. So yeah, I'll be happy.
Okay, fantastic. So Ethiopia is often described as the only country in Africa to not have been colonized. Do you feel that that's an accurate assessment? Do you feel there's any lingering effects of colonialism in Ethiopia, or has it been independent all the way through?
This is the famous term for any Ethiopian. If you go to Ethiopia and ask anyone, our pride comes from our independence. And the fight for freedom is not something we did even in the colonial times, but we were always fighting anything which comes to subdue us or subjugate us into something which we are not, or which we are not happy about. This the sense of freedom and the fight for independence are really intertwined together. When you think of Ethiopia, because the involvement of the Emperor Haile Selassie and everything, you can see the concept of independence in the whole country, politics. Yeah, we are so free of anything. Even some people would think the two invasions from the Italian government even were not happened. The feeling is like that. It was totally deterred and totally pushed back, that the influence of the colonial powers, you cannot even see it in the country, in the language, in the culture, everywhere. You cannot see it. That means Ethiopia being an independent and being a non-colonized country in Africa is something we all feel part of ourselves. It's very innate to the people. So
it's something that unites you all. This sense of So it didn't even come anywhere near you. That's the only African country to be able to do that. Why do you think that was? What was so unique about Ethiopia that they were able to fight off their colonizers?
I think it's a great question, because no Ethiopian has this question ask it to himself or to any of Ethiopians till now. So for me, I have an Amhara background, so I can speak about that morally. I think the culture, the first thing is the culture. So earlier also I explained about the concept of freedom. How we see freedom is totally different from, for example, from other African countries or the rest of the world. Because
in what way?
Yeah, we see freedom as an oxygen, or as something we need to have just to live. We always fight for our freedom. The two big religions, Christianity and Islam, has came to the country in their early times, and the people start to worship, God. And after that, because the influence of the religions made the people that the only superior being is God. No one can be superior.
But Elias, that's also common in other nations. Other nations also in Africa had the introduction of a higher being, a god, but still weren't able to defeat their colonizers.
And one is that, so I'm trying to put the attributes. So the other thing is the leadership, because Ethiopia has non-disconnected monarchical system for like thousands of years. So it's connecting. There were no any disruption in between. So when one king goes down, when the other king comes, the transition of power is stated in the book, like it's like constitution. It's not a constitution. We call it like Kabra Nagast and Fataha Nagast. But it's stated there. If the king dies, then he will be repressed by his son. If he is ill, he will be repressed by someone. So because of that, the continuity of those leadership created a united people, a system, a way of handling challenge. So the Italian invasion was not the first challenge to Ethiopia, because the Ottomans tried it, and the British also tried it. There was always a place where the kings united the people and fight back anyone who comes, who try to aggress in the country. Even the kings, they were so powerful, but still they teach the people that they are not the ones who have the ultimate power.
Them as the kings.
Them as kings. And they always say that we are the slaves of God. The kings, like literally, word by say this, we are the slaves of God. So this gave the people the idea of freedom. If someone comes and try to subjugate them, then the people will rise and fight. Even the trust between the people and the kings were created through, they used the religion as a tactic, but it was very honest.
Yeah.
So the people don't see it as, religion is posed on them as a way of control. The religion is also posed on the king and posed on the people. So this way the people feel like they're equal.
Yeah.
So the concept of equality is a big thing in the country.
That's very interesting. Like the concept of everyone being anchored on religion as the one true source and one true power, and the fact that you had no power vacuums meant that this grouping of people on this mountain up in Ethiopia stuck together for a very, very long time. This is very different to Sudan, for example, where in Sudan, before colonization, it was barren lands, a lot of scattered tribes. And I'm very prideful about Sudan, but I recognize a lot of our history comes post the 1900s. So we never really had, until colonization came and they drew the borders of this Sudan, an identity of this people. Of course, they had an independent identities, but as a grouping as one, that was the one. So that's why I wanted to start there, because it's something we can connect on. But from Ethiopia's perspective, the time you're referring to, was Eritrea part of Ethiopia at that point that you're describing?
Yeah. It was not actually part of Ethiopia. It was part of Ethiopia because the highlands of Eritrea was part of Ethiopia. But the two ports, the Massawa port and the Assab, was the British, Egypt, and Italy was controlling it, because there was a war between Ethiopia and Sudan, where the British forces were encircled by Sudanese army, and the British came to Ethiopian leaders. In that time, it was Emperor Yohannes. So they asked him we are encircled, so can you pull our soldiers out? So, and the agreement was made on the port Massawa, which is now Eritrea. The treaty is called the Hewitt Treaty. They agreed on these terms. One term was, I think it has 6 points. So one of the terms is Ethiopia to use Massawa without any charge. That was the agreement. So he fought them. He won for a while. and he pulled out the British troops. After that, the British gave the land to Italians. So the whole thing, the Adwa thing, and everything comes from that. So just like now, in Djibouti, in Somalia, in different parts of the world, the naval bases of different big powers operate. So you cannot say it's fully mine because they have some, existence in your port. So the
Who's
ports
they
of
when you say they?
in those times the British had presence there. The Italians has presence, and Egypt has presence. Even the Turks has some presence in those areas. So we cannot say like we have those lands by ourselves, but still like the land is ours. Eritrea has become a country like on 1991. So before that, the whole part of that place was part of Ethiopia. Indeed.
So in 1991,
Yeah.
Eritrea became an independent nation. So prior to that, it was part of whom?
From 1934, I guess, to the 1940 something, until the Italians left the whole of East Africa. It was like under a colonial, the colonial rule of Italy, because the Emperor Menelik had an agreement with Italy for them to have that parts of the land for
The
them.
land belonging to who?
Yeah, to Italy.
But who did the Italians occupy? Or
Parts of Eritrea.
also it was Eritrea was a country.
It was not a country, but Eritrea is like the leadership and everything. The business came down to Shawa, which is the central parts of Ethiopia. So it is like the end of Ethiopia. It's like the border places of Ethiopia.
Did they feel that they're their own people?
Because like the Eritrea has like I think 7 or 8 tribes, and one of it is the Tigrinya people, and we have the Tigrinya people in Ethiopia. So this they constitute around I think 50 something percent of Eritrea. They are also Ethiopians.
And did they feel the Tigray in Eritrea and Ethiopia? Do they feel different? Do they feel they have different identities?
Now, yeah, politically they.
No, not after 91.
Okay.
Before 91.
Before they don't. Before they don't. But still, the involvement of the colonial powers, they have this ideology of like creating that difference.
If we fast forward in the case of Eritrea to 1991, they get their own nation. And now at this point, who's in power in Ethiopia?
There was like, there were 2 armed groups, independence fighters. One is Shabia, the other one is TPLF. So they both work together, really accept the concept of like independence, self-rule. So they use that foundational principle, especially self-rule and independence. Even you can self-rule even up to the limits of having your own country. So Eritrea used that parachute to jump off the Ethiopian plane.
But it was divided, right? Some people wanted to rejoin with Ethiopia, and some Eritreans wanted to have their own nation.
Their own country. So the thing is, because there was a movement, the Shabia movement, people were having bad time with the leadership. The government was called like Derg, and he was very like brutal, not only for Eritreans, for the whole of the country, but Eritreans and Amharas were, and also Tigrayans were like his target. These three ethnic groups were feeling like pushed, were feeling problematic with the central government. So that momentum, the momentum the Shabia, the current leadership of Eritrea, had was so big that it influenced everyone. So they were getting bombed, they were getting starved. It was a man-made starvation. They give them a choice. The current leadership of Eritrea, if we continue like being a part of Ethiopia, we'll continue having these problems. So how about we have our own country? Then imagine the people in those times, they were having lots of problems. So they will be choosing, a no problematic situation for them.
Of course, yeah.
So that is like, dispatching from Ethiopia.
I want to go a bit back to something we connected on, the good old days of politics. When you look at that post-colonial time, at least for a country like Sudan, the 56 onwards, the 60s, you had people in cabinet and leaders, not just Sudan, across Africa, who were very well educated, very well spoken. They could go to international forums, rub shoulders with European leaders, and be very well spoken, very well read. A lot of these people, you know, are either your friends, grandparents, your grandparents, people you would know and respect within society. And I know Ethiopia had Emperor Haile Selassie. I want you to talk about him because when we last spoke about him, it gave me goosebumps what you said, especially how it came to an end was also very tragic. If you could just expand on his leadership and also what his name means, because it's also that's quite interesting as well.
Emperor Haile Selassie, he's a huge figure.
Part of the golden age.
Yeah, part of the golden age. He crafted what African leadership should look like. He also led by example for even for other African leaders, because Africa had Julius Nyerere, Kenyatta, also Kwame Nkrumah, Gamal. These are big names. These are big people. Like, they have huge knowledge on leadership. They are also freedom fighters, but they lack something. They lack the confidence. They lack the confidence within themselves. So Haile Selassie is that big guy, that big element, that energy, who united the whole of Africa and say, yeah, we can do it.
Mhm.
We're powerful. We have everything, every resource to be something, to lead a country, because those African countries, most of the rest of African countries were just free from the colonial powers.
Yeah.
You know, when you are just free from the leadership, you feel empty.
You need help.
Yeah, you need help.
You need a guide.
Guidance.
Yeah, you need guidance.
You need help. So he was like the big brother. He was like a dad.
So this was during the 50s
yeah,
and 60s.
in the 50s and the 60s. He has a cabinet of people like Aklilu Habtold. Aklilu Habtold was the one who literally, he wrote the law in the United Nations proclamations, which says no country can jump into another country to dominate it or to do anything. Every boundary should be respected. He was a secretary of Ethiopia, and also Legend Alcacho was.
Look at what these minds were producing.
Yeah, these are big minds. So the
And
emperor
where did they come from? Where were they educated? Where was
they are
this?
part of the royal family. So, you know, the royal family is very keen to knowledge
Is this in Ethiopia?
in Ethiopia.
What tribe are they? Just because
they're-
the tribalism in Ethiopia, I know in Africa as well, but plays a very big part in Ethiopia and who
the
held
country,
power, right?
both of them were Amharas. Like, his most leadership is built by Amhara. So the whole leadership is the monarchical leadership has a length of thousands of years. So because of that, it's hugely developed.
This was the same monarchy
the same monarchy
that continued down. Haile Selassie was part of that.
Yeah, he was the last of that monarchical system. So
Do you like that? Do people respect that monarchy?
yeah, they really respect that, because, you know, there are some who hate it, but when you hate it, you are hating the good old days. They can hate it, but they cannot, run from the influence of it. So whatever we have now is something they built. We are just, enjoying the fruits of what the emperor did. So in the African Union in those times, Gamal from Egypt, Nyerere, I think from Tanzania, Kenyatta from Kenya, Kwame from Ghana, they wanted something. Those leaders were not like uniting, they were having problems. So there was this big figure, Emperor Haile Selassie. He said, like, come to me, come to Ethiopia. I can host a meeting. Let's, hush our problems. Then he built African Union right away in the 1960 up to 63. And he hosted the first African Union Summit. So imagine, as in those times, having a huge summit like League of Nations, and you coming from some country in Africa, representing your country, and even voicing for your country, and drafting a new charter about how Africa should operate. It is something big, because there is League of Nations. Yeah, it's something big.
Massive.
He has a speech, the emperor. In his speech, what he said was, none of us are free until any of us are free. Because Ethiopia was free. Some of the countries were free, but there are 50-something nations in the continent, and only 33 of them were there, and from those, only 26 were like leaders of their country. The rest were not freed at all.
And
So even Kenyatta was not a leader back then.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. So he said that we're not free until every one of us are free.
Everyone is free.
So they tried. They worked so hard together. You can be jealous of how they work together. Ethiopia helped Mozambique, Tanzania, South Africa. Nelson Mandela was trained in Ethiopia. So when you see that, the way they work together.
And what did they all respect about Haile Selassie so much? What was his key philosophy? And where did he learn it? He wasn't a military general, right?
Yeah. So the thing is, he was part and parcel of leadership since at the age of 12. He learned leadership in a good way. His dad was a great military general, and his lineage is from the Emperor Menelik. He trained himself through a lot. At the age of 30, he went out from Ethiopia, went to different countries to see how they lead their countries. At the age of 32 or something, he was a very seasoned leader.
As it's crazy for me to think now that there was once upon a time those type of leaders in Africa. What they ended up falling prey to, I guess, is also the end of Haile Selassie, how his story comes to an end, I think was the birth of a new time, a new type of Africa. And there's so much, like the topic of Africa is so deep because at face value, it's what's happening on the ground in Africa. But then you also have to think how many other factors are playing in, how many other nations are invested in the growth or lack thereof of Africa, right? Like if we can go from this point where you had this golden age of great leaders and then it came to an end, like for Haile Selassie, how did that happen?
I think his leadership really transcended in his time. I think he passed his time. He was a visionary one. The country was a feudalistic country. The economy was based on land, and as the population grows, the land is always constant.
Yep.
So the economy will be we'll have some problems. We'll have some precautions because you have limited resource. You have unlimited growth of population because every day people are growing. When you have an economy which is based on just land, then the land is constant, the population is growing, then you'll stuck somewhere. So before that happens, he tried everything to bring huge corporates. The Ethiopian Airlines, it was founded by him. The Ethiopian railway system, it was founded by him. The Ethiopian electric system, it was founded by him. Almost the Ethiopian telecom, it was founded by him. Universities founded by him. He created these big corporates to hold the whole economy rather than focusing on just land. That was his idea. But
he was Amharic.
Yeah, he was an Amharic.
So with all the tribes within Ethiopia agree to him and his family as Amharic holding the power for all that time? Was there harmony across all the tribes, or was there some resentment?
The whole population of Ethiopia, or any population in the world, what they focus is economy, security, some sort of good thing in the country. If there is that kind of situations are promised and also acted on, then you do not care who leads or not. You do not care whoever leads. If economy is good, if there is safety, and if there is united goal towards something is promised and also acted on, you do not care who leads the country. People were happy. They don't want to ask that question.
Until what?
Until the Western politics start to engage with people who were sent to other Western countries to learn, because the emperor was sending students in Germany, in the US to have some excellence in what they are doing. But what they learned was revolutionary ideas, because in those times they were the imperialist concept and the socialist, the communist concept were really battling in that time. So those students who were sent to learn were part of the communist ideology, the Marxist, the Leninist ideology. When they come to Ethiopia, they see the king as an imperialist figure. The emperor was not a problem. The world politics was a problem. And he was like clinged by that avalanche.
Did he sense it? Did he sense
He
the
re-
temperature changing?
Yeah, he really sensed it, and that's what he was working at. But he was 83
So it was the ideologies that came from outside
outside.
rather than
From
tribalism.
the
So it
inside,
wasn't a tribal
He was not a tribal.
tribal
It
issue.
was not a tribal issue. But when they import that ideology, because communism is an ideology where the people, the community, the society, going after the rich people, going after the big
The
elite, and also the big economical empires. So this ideology was interpreted in the country in these ethnical lines.
Yeah, they had to come and make it fit.
Make it fit, yeah,
in
thank you.
Ethiopia.
So they say like, the Amharas are powerful now. We are poor because we are not Amharas.
Who's we?
The other nations,
the other tribes.
the other tribes.
Yeah.
So the other tribes.
What can you name them for me? Like
Mostly the Oromos and the Tigris were like part of this movement, these two. So the Oromos and the Tigris say, we're not fortunate enough because there are no kings. They see it as like, the communist approach, the communist concept, the socialist concept was
Why are
interpreted.
these Amharic people holding the power and the monarchy and
These
the
are
heritage
dynamics,
and all of that and what did they have? Because it was going well, right?
It was going well.
Even for them.
Yeah, even for them.
Yeah.
Even after the days of the emperor, everyone suffered a lot.
Who toppled him? Who toppled Haile Selassie?
Derg is Mengistu Haile Mariam. It was a military junta. He was aided by the Israeli government by that time.
What tribe was he from?
He's from an Oromo and some other small ethnic groups, but he defines himself as an Oromo.
And did Haile Selassie know this was happening?
So the thing is, he felt like betrayed by the people because he did everything in his power to make the country great. So he was expecting some praise than a revolt. It's like, if you don't want me, then you'll see the consequences. When I'm gone, you'll have problems. He said like, ዛሬ እኔን ትገፉኛላችሁ፣ ዛሬ እኔ ላይ ትወረውሩብኛላችሁ፣ ነገ ከጀርባችሁ በመሳሪያ የሚገላችሁ ይገዛችኋል። So this is like, today you push me, today you mock me, you insult me, and he didn't do anything. When there was revolutions, when there were movements, protests, he didn't do anything. He didn't kill a single person. He gave his power like without any gunshot, anything, without anything. They come to his office, they read him a letter saying, you're out of power now. And he say, oh yeah, it happens in Europe and other parts of the world. So yeah, you can take it, but I advise you. I work so hard for this country. Please keep it.
That's very,
so
very
democratic,
sad.
Yeah, and very
that is
sad.
very sad because there is almost no praise to someone who's done so much patriotism immediately gone out of the window, and it's the introduction almost of a new age. Not only Ethiopia, Africa as a whole, the military rule, ruling by the gun. So this next phase of Africa, the transition into military rule or post-colonialism, comes with a lot of problems. There's a book I told you about, The Bottom Billion. I have it here with me. I can give it to you as well. It basically talks about, explains Africa as, so the bottom billion, the worst 1 billion people and where they reside. So there's parts of Asia, but majority of it's in Africa. So why is this continent, why does it host people that are so far behind? Why is everyone here that resides in these countries so far behind the rest of the world? And not only that, the book also talks about the growing gap. So while nations are advancing, they seem to be going in a decline. They're going back. So eventually, when the gap is so big, it's going to become a problem for the whole world. That's the lens he's talking about it. So it's not that it's coming at it from a, we care about Africa, why are they so far behind? But their departure from us and going so far back may end up affecting us all. So he talks about the reason, there's 4 traps, he calls them traps, that lead to a country's downfall generally. A lot of African nations experience them. So if one, your country is landlocked, you don't have access to the sea. Two, if you have a lot of ethnic diversity in your country. Three is the natural resource trap, if your country has a lot of natural resources. And the fourth one is if your country's ever been in conflict. Ethiopia, I think, has all four of them, right?
Yeah, all four of them.
All four.
It feels like the author studied Ethiopia
Mm-hmm.
because we have everything he said, but like generally, I don't feel like those traps would put us in this kinds of situation because we can also have some argument towards it because the diversity of ethnicities sometimes will be like a good deal for a country like to thrive.
How can it be a good deal?
Because like if there is a way for them like to work together toward this some certain goal, because for example in the Battle of Adwa, which as a country we fight against the colonial Italian powers, we collected people from different parts of the country, different ethnic groups, and we used their expertise in the war. So diversity is not always a problem because the Western concept of nation building is all about creating one single element so that you can draw a certain goal, then you can go towards it easily. But when you look into African countries and also the East, the Middle East and the rest of the Far East, it's hugely cultured places. So you cannot implement the idea of this nation building or nation concept toward this in these countries because nation building is like creating a people who have one language or two, creating a certain people who are the same or who want to be the same, and so that they can jump or run towards a certain goal. It will be easy. It's like bringing two or three the same kinds of horses and tie them together. And
So why not do it? So why is that a bad thing?
it's not like a realistic approach towards Africa or maybe Middle East, because the realistic situation in those countries is not like that. What Africa should do is, we have diversities. We don't want to kill that. Because of that, the kings, the leaders, the past leaders kept it because they feel that it is something, it should be preserved, right? So Ethiopia is very diverse in ideologies, in language, in culture, and everything. Not like in the past. The past was more of united. The challenges were, really surpassed by the kings in the past. But the current leaders do not understand this thing. And you cannot do a nation building process now. But you have other other tactics, to use the diversity towards a certain goal. So I think this is a big question for the current leaders.
Maybe you can give them an answer. You have a lot of knowledge, Elias, on politics and then history as well. I want to understand exactly from your perspective as well why you're so passionate about this, and why did you genuinely want to have a political voice and become a political activist.
Yeah.
What does that mean in your day-to-day? What are you advocating for?
I'm an Amhara advocate because my ethnic background is Amhara. Those golden days,
Okay.
those days where we use intellect, knowledge, and power should always rise from this knowledge rather than the guns, weapons. In the past, power was defined through knowledge. That's why the old leaders were so connected with religious leaders, because religion is a place where you get knowledge, right? The current leaders, they feel like their power emanates from arms, so they spend lots of billions of dollars on the weapons. So me as a person, I'm an Amhara, and I know what we have to do to overcome these all challenges if we happen to understand our past leaders. But what we have day by day is war, ethnic tensions, poverty, economical crisis. When you have this thing again and again for like 15 more years, then you should stop and say, what am I doing? What went wrong? Why the past was good and why the new ages are bad. The Prime Minister of Ethiopia sleeps in the residence which is built by the emperor. Everything he has is what the emperors did. Earlier you asked me about the independence. It was done by the emperors. Every national day was created by the emperors. This national days are achievement days, right? But they want to run from the truth. So when they try to portray the old days, the kings are not alive. The system is not alive anymore. But they want to create an enemy. Then when they try to create an enemy, my people, the Amhara people, become the enemy because those kings are from our ethnic group.
So what did that making the Amharic the villains? What did that do
the
to them
villains
over time?
and the targets. What they give us is, genocide, killing, displacement from, our resident areas.
So is there no currently Amharic figures in power?
Yeah, there are no any Amharic figures in power. There are, but those are the ones who sold their people for a certain power or some title.
If anyone hears this now and thinks, correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying you want to not be seen as the common enemy anymore, as Amharic people, but that does not mean you want to be more superior to anyone else. You want equality, but now they've pushed you below even the equality line.
The equality line. When they want to point their fingers, they want to point at someone, and that someone was the Amhara people. Whatever we did right. Throughout the history, we fought for the country, we fought for everyone. We gave ours to others to thrive. But, the return, in the business we say ROI, right? The return of investment. But our return of investment was hate. They need to have a peace with themselves than hate on us, because if we were the problems, the country will be at peace because we retracted from everything.
Mm-hmm.
The country is in chaos. If we were the problems, the retarding of our people from every corner of power would brought some peace, would brought some prosperity to the country. If the solution to the problem is not bringing any solution, then your problem identification is wrong, right? They say the Amharas had the problems, they grab the lands, they grab the powers, their language is powerful, their culture is powerful, so they want to run from us. And sadly, or maybe for us, luckily, they were trying to become us. They become good speaker of our language, they use our culture for the business and everything, and they still want to portray us as a bad person. So now the Amhara people shall rise, right? Because our people start to accept those negativity and thinks that I am that person, I'm that bad person, so I need to be, hidden somewhere. For the past 20 years, if you ask any Amhara, they would say, what are you? They wouldn't say like proudly Amhara. They would say I'm Ethiopian. From what tribe? They say we don't believe in tribes. We don't believe.
I hear a lot of people who say we don't believe in tribes, but I almost agree with that, because this
that doesn't come naturally. That comes from subjugation, imposing of different negativity towards the people. They say because they are afraid to be persecuted or hated.
So then my question is twofold then. So did the oppression of your people get you to advocate for getting your people recognized in a better light and recognizing the history? Two, if you are now in it and as you continue to grow and learn, does the activism and what you do on social platforms, does it far outreach what you can achieve more than if you were to go and join the Ethiopian political scene in Ethiopia?
This is a great question, by the way. So, my perspective of the situation is our people can only be free when they believe by themselves, when they have the confidence of being themselves. That was stripped of my people because of mockery, negativity, and also arrests, attacks, and also killings. It expanded to a point where our people to pass through a genocide. The Amharas, they do not feel like they're Amharas. They always say we are Ethiopians, because it's not because they love to be Ethiopian or they want to be called as Ethiopian.
They just don't want to be Amharic for
Yeah,
that moment.
Yeah, because like the persecution, the pushing, the genocide, everything was just too much for them to endure.
So how did you get in then?
So
What's your involvement to
yeah,
all
my
of this
involvement
chaos?
is like, you know, for them, like if you are dying because you are Amhara, then die as an Amhara. So that's where I come in, you know. So I start to engage with especially the young people, the youth, and also even the whole community, you know, start saying you're Amhara first. If you have to die, you be dying because you're Amhara, right? But don't die as Ethiopian while you are an Amhara.
Is that not creating separation, Elias? Like,
Yes,
is that not creating the one of the traps in the bottom billion of the diversity, and
yeah,
then
yeah. It's
pushing
already
pushing the tribalism?
it's already created.
It's
We are
already.
not the ones who created it. Look, peace is like a scale, a balance scale. If one scale is not like, you know, filled with something, if it's always like, you know, going up, and the other scale is getting filled by a lot of things, then there won't be any balance. There will always be a trouble in that scale. So peace is a horizontal scale. For that to happen, there needs to be a balance. Peace is not something we preach. Peace is not like religion. In religion, peace is love, peace is God, peace is something. Peace comes from a virtue or some celestial entity. But, you know, peace on the ground comes from balance. For example, if you see the big powers, the US, the Russia, if one has better power, there is no peace at all. There is one theory I know, it says Chekhov's law. You know, if you have power, you are, you know, destined to use it. If you feel like you have better power, you are tempted to use it. So if there is no better power, if everyone is equality is peace, right? When there is equality, everyone feels they're equal.
So you want to level the playing field.
Thank you.
For the Amharic
The
people.
Amhara people. So the Amhara people are like, you know, below the ground.
But I do have some very powerful Amharic friends who are doing very big things in Ethiopia right now. How are they in a situation where they can thrive as Amharic in Ethiopia? What's unique about them?
They're ethnically Amhara, but they feel like they're Ethiopians. If you ask each and everyone of them, they would say they are Ethiopians. But now they may, you know, jump out of their bubbles.
Oh, the movement's coming.
The movement is giving them that you can become Amhara and then you can become Ethiopian. Nothing will happen to you. We can defend it. We are here. We are here to defend our past. Our past is not something, as you guys said, is not something bad. It's actually great, not only for Ethiopians, for the rest of Africans.
It was what it was built on.
Yeah, this is the perspective I'm coming from. So in order to fight the evil, sometimes you need to be, you know, you need to stand by yourself rather than, you know, begging for mercy.
Of course.
So, you know, peace cannot come from mercy. Peace only comes from a challenge. So the Amhara people need to challenge everything. If not, the killing won't stop.
I'm sure your opinions don't resonate well with the current
regime.
with the current regime.
Yeah.
Does that put you at any sort of risk? Can you go back to Ethiopia?
I can't.
You can't.
It puts me in a lot of risk because, you know, as I told you, I always believe that power emanates from knowledge, as my forefathers taught us. But for the current regimes, not only in Ethiopia, the rest of Africa, their power emanates from weapons. They believe that when they buy drones, they think they're like, you know, God. But so, you know.
So you want peace, truly?
I really want peace, but, you know, for you to have peace, there shall not be any evil, right? For light to be there, darkness should perish. The Amharas, for the past 50 years, like more than 50 or 60 years, they were getting displaced everywhere without saying anything. Like they didn't fight back. So unless we fight back, unless we say no, then there shall not be any peace at all. I'm part of a movement called One Amhara movement, and also I work for two advocacy groups. One is Amhara Advocacy Group, is located in Pennsylvania. The other one is in Geneva, it's called Stop Amhara Genocide. But the Amhara Advocacy Group is something I always love to work with. And the movement, One Amhara movement, is I'm like a good figure in that movement. So what we do is like in the old days, like 2, 3, 4 years back, we're like creating awareness, also lifting the
spirits.
confidence,
Yeah.
the spirits, just at least to fight,
Mhm.
or at least to say something. Then now everything is changed. The people are not only like being proud of who they are. It even ranges to a point where people raise arms to fight for themselves, to fight against a huge power.
A lot of people might hear that and think you're advocating for violence, but I think what many people don't understand is the situation, especially in countries like Ethiopia and third world. It's kill or be killed. It's all fighting in defense. It's all in defense. Because you doing that and taking on this position, clearly you have a passion for it. And like you said, you would debate any minister and you feel you could own them. You feel you would intellectually annihilate them, right? You're clearly very passionate about what you're doing for your people, and it's clearly aligned you in a way where you know what you need to do, but coming with all the risks. You can't go back to your country, Ethiopia. You've been away for some time while you're building this movement. How has that affected you mentally, and how's and the people around you, your family, your loved ones? Is the cause greater than what it does, the harm it does to you mentally? Does it do any harm to you mentally?
It really does. It really does, because the challenge is everywhere. Because I'm not only fighting a simple thing. I'm trying to fight a big actor, not only in Ethiopia, also in East Africa. So when you fight big evil, it's really challenging, because you will attack them in some way, right? You'll challenge their narratives. You'll try to awaken the people. When you do that, you're challenging them. So there is always a challenge back, and the challenge back is really hard, because your loved ones, your circles will be affected. So it really affected everyone. So at first, everyone was afraid, because politics, advocacy are things which gets people killed. Okay, which gets people have lots of issues. So because of that, everyone around me was really sad about it, because they're not political. So afterwards, they start to understand, and they say, let him do what he has to do. Whatever comes to me shall not affect anyone around me, because whether they do anything to them or not, they won't do anything to me, because I won't stop. This is something I'm doing like out of love for my people. So my family or my circle are also like my loved ones, and I have like claimed that everyone in my ethnic group, especially all of the Amharas, are my loved ones. So no one is different from the community. The enemy would know that by now. They understand it. They understand the consequences, and also the enemy knows about everything, because they have the whole resource to do it, to know about anything about me, my circles, and everyone. So yeah, it really affects, and it shaped my personality. It makes you fearless,
Of course.
because I'm fighting for a good cause. Because every day, before I become this, every day I was, getting reports of people getting killed, displaced. Millions of people were, passing through a genocide. I cannot sleep the whole night. What should I do? The movement really helped a lot, because saving, for example, if you are a doctor, if you save one life today, that would be something for that person, right? For the doctors, it's not the money they are in, it's also the satisfaction they get from saving people. So it's like that, you save people every day, you awaken people. People will be ready for everything, so they can at least protect themselves. So yeah, it's satisfying in some way,
It's
and
worth
also
it.
it is also a challenge in some way. Yeah,
Elias, do you want to become president of Ethiopia?
always a leader should be seasoned in some way, should see everything,
Should have been through things.
through things. So
You're a brave man for saying that. This was a fantastic conversation. We need to definitely do a part two. There's so much more to get into. not only about the continent, but about the work you're doing, about the cultures, the arts of Ethiopia, which I'm very fond of. I've been to Ethiopia many times. It's a beautiful country. It's sad to see what it's going through. I think, yeah, when you have a moment, we'll do this again.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you so much
I
for
love
coming
the
on,
details.
Elias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.